Welcome to Women Winning Divorce with your host, Heather Quick. Heather brings over 20 years of law experience that advocates and empowers women to achieve happier and healthier lives. Each week, we provide knowledge and guidance on different aspects of family law to help lead women through the difficult and emotional legal challenges that they are facing. Listen in as she discusses issues including divorce, custody, alimony, paternity, narcissism, mediation, and other family law issues to provide insight on the journey of women winning divorce. Welcome to the show. I'm Julie Morgan, and I'm joined by your host, Heather Quick. Heather, how are you today?
I am doing wonderful. How are you, Julie?
Oh, Heather, I'm hanging in there. No one wants to hear my complaints, so I'm not going to say anything. I know you would listen, but I'm not going to bore you.
But I'd also tell you to shake it off, girl.
Oh, you almost made me break out in song to Taylor Swift. All right. Okay. You almost made me break out in song. Okay. Trust me, you don't want to hear my singing. All righty.
Oh, I don't believe you. I do.
All right. So today's topic, letting go of the shame and guilt of divorce. Last week, we talked about mental health struggles and how people are sharing more of their mental health struggles. But you know what? It still seems like in society today, divorce is still a bad thing.
Yeah, I think so in a lot of ways, especially when there's not really a bad guy, bad woman, there's not that big glaring reason, like they're in jail, so that's why I divorced them, or something else, like Kim Kardashian, Kanye West. Who can blame her, for heaven's sakes? Like the stuff he did, which also ties into mental health. However, I think that's when famous people talk about it and where they can tie it in. But I do think there is still a bit of guilt about divorce. I don't know how taboo it is, but I think that it's, on one hand, such a private thing, but it's obviously public, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're not together, you're not together.
Why do you believe that people are hesitant to tell others, hey, I'm getting a divorce? What is the reason?
Probably just to be judged and disappointed, and because everybody wants the juicy, well, what happened? What did he do? What did you do? And maybe something is like, one, you don't want to really share, which is good. You ought not just share, the details, air your dirty laundry with your friends and stuff. But maybe there's not one thing. Or maybe it's so bad you don't want to talk about it. But either way, you feel you're going to be judged.
I think it's interesting you said that people will ask about, what happened and why is this happening? Can we make it a practice of not doing that, And that may help someone to tell you what's going on in their life. Don't dig too deep. Just let me tell you what I want to tell you.
People are so nosy. Come on. Like the moment you start dating somebody wants to know when you're getting married. You get engaged, they want to know when you're having a baby. And then when you're doing this, like people just assume so much and really just are nosy and want to know. And I speak for myself. I am so very curious. I always want to know a whole bunch of stuff, and not really to judge, just because I'm a curious person. And I feel like, well, why isn't anybody asking this? But I do restrain myself with somebody like I don't know well. I'm like, I'm not going to ask you that. Like, I don't know you well enough.
But Heather, you have the tea on so many people's lives, I tell you. So, you do know a lot and you keep it in, which is wonderful. That's good. That's what you want in a lawyer and a friend,
That's right. That's why, I've got my companion, Coco the Chihuahua, so she can, help me keep all the secrets.
Wait a minute. What happened to Bruiser?
Well, Bruiser's there too, but he's a little more social. Coco is very more reserved, so can't share everything with the little friendly guy.
Okay, so Bruiser will tell you business. He'll bark all over the place. Is that what you're telling me?
That's right.
Gotcha. So,
but
yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. I just think that it's is something that on one hand, probably you do want to talk about, but nobody ever gets married wanting to get divorced or thinking they're going to get divorced. And you do feel like you have, well, yeah, I mean, the marriage failed. So did you fail? Well, you both failed, but that's okay. That's how we learn. But still, nobody wants that public, right?
Exactly. So people feel guilt and shame. Is there a difference between the two?
Well, this makes me think that of like Brene Brown. So that's the book I guess you have to read. But I think with this shame, like guilt, you feel bad for something you did, or maybe breaking a moral or social code or something you did. Like, hey, I did that. I broke that vase. I feel guilty. I feel bad about that. But shame, it's you feel bad maybe because of something that was done to you or a situation that you were in that you define as wrong or bad. So it's more, shame is more like I am bad, not I feel bad.
Yeah. So shame sounds more unhealthy.
Yes. And I think, yes, it definitely is. And we all have felt it, and it leads to, at the extreme, certainly can lead to depression and anxiety. And this will be a plug for like anything that Brene Brown, any of her talks or books are so very helpful, because we all experience these different emotions. I think we all do. Not, I can only speak as my experience as a woman and different things where I can identify with how she helps define that and understand it so that you can move through it. But it will keep you stuck for sure in the past because of the way you're feeling about yourself.
Oh, and this is really about moving forward. When someone gets a divorce, it's about the next step. And shame, that's not going to help you.
It's not. And I think we've talked about this before. I think you can choose to be a victim, and I'm just saying in a very general sense, because things happen all the time in all of our lives. And when we're talking specifically about divorce and a bad relationship, you have the option on how you want to view that for yourself, that life is happening to you or life is happening for you. That's my Tony Robbins quote for the day. I've got full of other people's good quotes and information, but that is where it will, you can get stuck, and you might not be able to see it from another way if you're just feeling so shameful about the breakup of your marriage. And I mean, let's be real, that's you being a lot in your ego and as if it's all on you. I mean, marriage takes two to work and takes two not, and takes two to break. So it's not, feeling all of that guilt and shame on yourself. I don't think you're being fair to yourself.
So, and we're going to touch on this a little bit later as far as women taking more of the blame or taking the lead as far as responsibility for the divorce. But even before we get to that part, they tend to feel more responsibility for the relationship as well.
Yeah, which is a bunch of BS. I mean, that's ridiculous. You're both responsible. But when you do that, that can be, maybe you're wanting to control it. And so you want the relationship to be a certain way, and it's not, or you're wanting your husband to be something he's not, or yourself. I mean, when we compare or we look at social media and, if you get into watching a lot of that, and there can be so much comparison, or this is the way our relationship should be. So-and-so got flowers. They get flowers all the time and they always go out on dates. And so, many times by taking all that responsibility on, now you're taking on, that's more than you really can bear, because if you're trying to control the whole relationship, it's not really going to work very well because both of you have to participate.
And another thing is you also will start to take on the other person's failures as well.
Yeah, which is extremely unhealthy. And again, not allowing, you married this person, you each have to contribute something. And at certain times in a marriage, one person may be bringing more to the table than another, emotionally or, spiritually, financially. And that should be like in a kind of in a harmony, and it goes back and forth because that's what it is, a give and take. And I do think at many times or often, women, we really harm ourselves by doing that and trying to control it so much that it causes it to break because nobody wants to be controlled.
Tell me this, do you think this is something that a mental health professional can help with?
I'm sure. I don't know. I think the first step comes with like really understanding how you are showing up in a relationship and then how you're showing up when it's deteriorating. It really is more about, helping yourself. And especially if there's a lot of guilt and shame, which we were talking about, that comes from, years ago back, we've talked about the family of origin and the way you grew up. Those are just certain beliefs and things that maybe you saw in your parents' relationship, grandparents' relationship. That's where we learn all of those things. Just like the feeling of either guilt or shame, and maybe which one might be more prevalent based on, the way you grew up. And if you haven't done anything to fix that, because we all got stuff from where we grew up, and everybody should work on themselves to improve that version of themselves, in my opinion and experience. But I think that is absolutely work that can help you. And if you're listening to this and you're already like, yeah, I feel so shameful or guilty because of the divorce, that is stuff you can work on and improve for yourself.
Yeah, and that's why I brought that up as far as a mental health professional is concerned, because they may be able to help you talk through these things and get to the point, the point where you don't feel that shame and that guilt based on how you grew up.
Absolutely. And you can see it for what it is and just circumstances and not you being a bad person.
Because if you're not seeing it, and you have to possibly accept help in order to get to that point. But sometimes it's difficult to ask for help.
Oh, it sure is. And especially, yeah. And in this context, sometimes maybe you reach out, you're not sure who to reach out to, but when you have these feelings, absolutely counselors can help you maybe really pinpoint the distinction between you feeling bad versus that happened, and you can choose how you want to now feel about it.
And you know what? That's something, and I remember when you told me this about the services that you offer, is that it's a very holistic approach. So there's someone in your office that can help you get to that place, that can, as far as recommending people that you can go talk to, or things that you can do in order to help you get to that place. And I can appreciate that.
Absolutely. We definitely try to provide our clients with great referrals to the people who can best help them work through these things.
But you have to be at the point where you want to accept that help. Am I right?
Yes. And that's the key. We've talked about it many times before.
You're listening to Women Winning Divorce with Heather Quick, owner and attorney of Florida Women's Law Group. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we return, we'll talk about how divorce causes shame and guilt. Stay with us. Welcome back to Women Winning Divorce with Heather Quick, owner and attorney of Florida Women's Law Group. Heather, earlier we talked about the fact that women tend to feel more responsibility for the relationship. But this also comes into play when they decide to get a divorce as well. They take on more responsibility for the divorce as well.
Many times they do. And, that tends to be repeating a pattern. Maybe they took on, like we were talking about before, more responsibility during the marriage or about the family dynamics or the relationship. And so that would then follow that they're going to take on a little bit more maybe of the blame, particularly if they are the one initiating the divorce, then maybe is really due. I mean, blame doesn't really help anyone. It whether you're blaming yourself or someone else. So I can see how that naturally follows in that situation.
Yeah, it does make sense because, the woman, she's probably thinking about how this is affecting the family overall, the kids, and what are they going to do? So I can definitely see that.
Yeah, because true. And depending on the length of the marriage, it's going to affect so many aspects of your life and many other relationships, like you have in-laws, whether it's, the mother, father-in-law, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, cousins, a lot of times there's just a lot of connections and relationships tangential to the family that you're going to take some responsibility for, as well as the children, and then social relationships that you were with a couple or even the kids' parents. There's just so many. So that can be a lot that you're taking the responsibility for. How am I going to manage all of those?
Where do you think that this comes from, this responsibility, this desire? Well, I'm not going to say the desire to have this responsibility, but it seems like it's just a natural thing for women. Am I right?
I think so, but I think in a lot of ways that it is. We're definitely, very holistic and, kind of taking in all of that and relationships and building at that. We feel that sense of responsibility for that. And I think that can be more pronounced in folks that like to control a lot of things. So, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It is what it is.
Okay, Heather, you just described me. I like control. And so, yeah, that would be me. Yeah.
Well, let's not kid anybody. Me too. So, you have to learn. It's easy to see, the traits that you have.
Yeah. What about shame because they couldn't save the marriage? Do you see that as well?
I think so. Yeah, that's a normal, I think, feeling. And that is one you definitely need to get, resolved within yourself and for counseling. Don't carry that through. Because even if, let's say, even if you are the one who's like, hey, I cheated, I don't like him, blah, 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 I did all these things. Okay, well, you have to forgive yourself and move on, because you're not going to be, that's not going to be a positive way to continue through your life. Yes, even if you did do a lot of things, it's just seeing it from an objective point of view, and that's why counseling can help you forgive yourself, even if nobody else will. That's important.
But what if you didn't? What if you aren't the reason? What if you are not the cause, but you initiate the divorce, but you are not the cause? Why feel that shame? Why feel that guilt? That's kind of difficult to understand.
Well, I can't tell you I understand that either. However, there's always two players, so I'm not buying that. Like, even if they were bad, but you put up with it for so long or whatever. If I think anyone going into a divorce with the idea that I did nothing to contribute to the downfall of this marriage, I just think you're fooling yourself. And that's just for your own self-reflection, taking responsibility for what part you played, whatever that may be. It doesn't make anybody bad. I just think it makes you a healthier person moving forward, and you're not adopting the role of a victim.
So it's two people in the marriage, and so therefore they each played a part in the demise of the marriage.
Well, we just all play a part in life and in things, and that's all. It's not to assign blame. It's just I do believe, and this takes work. I mean, it's like, I'm not saying this is perfect in every situation, but I think a healthier way for both people is, to look at how could I have shown up, or would I have done anything differently or not? It's just it can be a little more objective and not so harsh on yourself or harsh against the other person. Not that you have to like your ex-husband. If you share children, that is helpful. I think that is where forgiveness is important for yourself. Forgiveness is really for yourself, to let go of anger and let go of blame. And that all that stuff goes together, and maybe you have shame over being in a marriage where your husband cheated on you constantly. That would feel really bad. Rightfully so. You just feel so worthless, and you'd be I can see where that would just take a lot of work with a mental health professional, because that's not your fault, but you've got to work through building yourself back up to why, with that and dealing with that.
And where do you believe the guilt comes from? Is it possibly disappointing other people?
Oh, sure. And really even disappointing yourselves. More often, I think we break promises to ourselves more than anyone else. And we feel guilty about that. And it wasn't what we dreamed it would be. Because, before you're married to that person, you've never been married to them before, and you don't know. There's so much we don't know. There's all these books and say, oh, pick the right partner and do this and do that. Well, if you've never been married before, you don't really know. And even if you have, you might, pick the same kind of person. And I think that most of us are doing the best that we can on any given day and trying to figure this stuff out. It's not like we all go to college, relationship college or anything, and learn how to be great in a relationship. You figure it out as you go based on, what you've learned growing up and seen, and what you believe your husband or wife to be. And maybe they turned out to not be what you thought they were. Maybe you should not have married them. Okay, well, you did. So maybe it's just that you two were just not right for one another.
Something you said about disappointing yourself, that could be guilt that is possibly the most difficult to get over, as opposed to disappointing other people. How much you've disappointed yourself.
So, because who do you, that's just tough. You're like, man, I told myself I would have done this. I wish I would have stood up for myself. I wish I would have done X, Y, Z. So yeah, you got that can be difficult just within your own struggle, which then makes sense is you're carrying around these feelings of shame and guilt that you've got to reconcile with yourself.
Yeah, I was thinking because, you have to look at yourself in the mirror every single day. And so that may be just the part of guilt that you just can't forgive. Yeah.
And I think with work you can.
With work, there goes that mental health professional thing again that we've talked about so many times on this show. Shouldn't be ashamed to get help.
Correct.
There could also be guilt if you stuck around for far too long.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot. You think, and you think, oh, I should have left then, or this, but of course, hindsight's 20/20 when we look back. And, sometimes you just are trying to give things another chance, and or you just aren't ready to make that big step just yet. You're just not ready. And so you did stay. And yeah, maybe you stayed a little bit too long, but
when someone comes into your office and they have all of this, because we've talked about so many emotions on this show. It's weighing on them. It baffles me how you're able to get around all of that and get to the point where they're able to, start the paperwork and that type of thing. I just don't see it.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to direct the conversation, but also it's just good listening and helping come to a solution, because that's what we do. We solve problems. We look for solutions for women so that they can feel like they're winning again.
I see what you did there. Women winning divorce. Look at you.
Yeah, I need like that.
So going back to something we talked about just a few minutes ago, as far as looking in the mirror, you may see failure in yourself, but sometimes this failure that you see isn't yours, such as the husband doesn't love them enough. That's not you. That's them.
Right. So, and things like that are very subjective, and it's placing blame. He didn't love you enough, or you weren't good enough, or things that at the end of the day, a lot of that is just the thoughts, and it's so destructive to you, thinking like that.
Yeah, as far as, but I also think about, maybe, if I would have lost weight, then everything would have been okay.
Yes, or right, exactly. Mm-hmm. If I had, if I had lost weight, if I didn't look so old, take better care of myself, been a better mother, been a better cook, I mean, I don't think at the end of the day those are the things, but I don't know. You got to forgive yourself and look at it that things do add up over time for both people. And, human beings are who they are.
But staying in that place of shame and guilt is not going to help you. It's not going to help the kids. It's not going to help your relationship going forward that you're going to need in order to support the kids. None of that is going to help.
That is true. And it's not going to help you move on with your life.
Again, we come to this point of mental health. I know I've already said it probably about 5 minutes ago, but, having someone to work with you through these issues, it can really help. And it should not be looked at as if it is a taboo thing.
Correct. Because, certainly what I want for anybody feeling like this and going through this is to work through it and not to sit and dwell in these feelings that then become destructive.
Oh, we're going to get into that. You're listening to Women Winning Divorce with Heather Quick, owner and attorney of Florida Women's Law Group. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we return, we're going to talk about how to overcome these feelings and not be destructive. Stay with us. Welcome back to Women Winning Divorce with Heather Quick, owner and attorney of Florida Women's Law Group. Heather, when we left off of that last segment, and just in case you missed it, you can go to our website, womenwinningdivorce.com, so you can download and listen to this episode. When we left off on that last segment, you mentioned about something about being destructive, how we need to let go of the shame and the guilt, because otherwise it could become destructive.
Absolutely. And this is when you should break into song, Julie, the Let It Go song from Frozen, because that's what you got to do.
Okay. You know what? I have to say, I've never seen the movie.
Well, you need to fix that by the next time we talk, because
I
it is a
do.
lovely movie. And don't even get me started on how wonderful it is and why. That will be for its own Disney episode. So.
Oh, you know we could do that because we're both Disney fans, okay? We could definitely do one about that. Yeah. So let it go. Let it go. But isn't that easier said than done?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's why everybody says it. Of course it's easier to say it than do it. But wow, the result, like, and I don't mean let it go and don't deal with it. Understand your feelings to the best you can, but wallowing in it and having a pity party isn't going to really help you or anybody around you.
You said the right thing. We're not talking about letting it go and not dealing with it, but you need to let it go and still deal with how you got there and then move on. Because so many times we talk about letting it go, but that's letting it go and not dealing with it.
Absolutely. Right. So yeah, don't let it go and then just like stuff it in a drawer and not deal with it. It's saying, okay, this didn't work. I accept responsibility for these things, but guess what? I'm not accepting responsibility for that. And I'm forgiving myself, everyone involved, and tomorrow's a new day. That's the short synopsis of where you want to be once you've dealt with therapy and worked through these issues, however you need to. Obviously we always say go to therapy, but start exercising, get outside, sweat it out, and clear your brain, meditate, spend some time that is just quiet, and before you know it, a lot of that stuff can begin to go away.
Take the time, because we don't take time for ourselves all the time. We talk about self-care, and that is so important. And this is part of your self-care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And right, that's the only, I think that can be just one of the healthiest things you can do, is what we talked about, acknowledging it, but then just growing from that. Don't let that happen for nothing. We all have things that happen to us in our life that kind of just suck, right? And you're like, man, that really was not pleasant. And I would not like to go through that again. However, if there's a lesson to be learned, don't leave the lesson behind. How do you improve as a person from what you went through?
Yes. Yes, indeed. Because if you don't do that, you could repeat this process over and over again.
Oh, you most definitely are repeating it over and over again. And you will make the exact same mistakes. You'll think they're different. You won't think of them that way in the moment, but they're going to be the exact same things. And you're going to marry a man who does the exact same things. And you're going to end after that marriage, wonder, wow, or relationship, that kind of ended the same way the other one did. I wonder why that was. And then by the third one, hopefully maybe you have some awakening where you can see, hey, the common denominator was me, and I keep having these same experiences. Maybe I need to kind of look back and pause as to how I'm showing up, because maybe I need to resolve some stuff from that first relationship so that I can show up differently.
Or Heather, what if, and I've mentioned this before, I don't understand it. I know it happens, and no judging here, but what if you turn around and you marry the same person and then it ends up the same way? That's something.
I have another quote for that.
Okay, I'm listening.
And that is repeatedly doing the same thing and expecting a different result is like the definition of insanity or something. I think that's Albert Einstein. I don't know where this stuff is coming from me today, but it's just popping in. So, but
I like it. Yeah. And I don't want to keep repeating the same mistakes. Yeah.
And none of us do. And I mean, it happens. it happens in life. It happens in relationships with people, with your spouse, with your kids. And so, don't lose the lesson in this divorce that might allow you that opportunity to pause and maybe stop always being the martyr and blaming yourself for everything. Maybe stop taking responsibility for the way your husband acted, or taking responsibility for the way your children acted. I mean, on some hands, yeah, we have some responsibility for that, but at the end of the day, you need to allow people to be who they are and make their own mistakes, but you don't have to be responsible for that. And you don't have to feel guilty for things that have passed. If you did something mean or spiteful to somebody, okay, yeah, you probably apologize or whatever, but you don't need to carry around the guilt.
And also, don't let other people make you feel guilty.
Exactly. Well, now I will catch you on your words. Nobody can make you feel any way. You are responsible for your own feelings.
Okay, Heather, where did that one come from?
I don't know. I heard it from somewhere. I know that. But I do know you can't control other people, but you can control the way you respond. And I work on that a lot because I try to control the way I respond and recognize that when people aren't doing things the way that I would like them to be done, or doing things in their life that I would rather them make different choices. I can't control that, but I can control how I'm going to react to that. And I can control how I'm going to feel about certain things. And that's just not without a lot of self-reflection, like I said, and work on that. And knowing that then that can allow me to be a better human and have more to offer other people if I don't get stuck in those kinds of, patterns and traps.
Something else that I'm looking at, it talks about social media and social media being a trigger. Oh, I can see it. I can see that. And so if that's the case, avoid social media. Kind of difficult, but you can do it.
Oh man, that's a whole nother show. I just want you to know that stuff is so toxic and so addictive and dangerous. And I will tell you, I went on TikTok the other day and I was quite entertained. And it's hard to put that down. Mm-hmm. It is. And I really do a lot of, I don't know, time restrictions or social media detox, because I see where it doesn't help me be my best self. And I see things and I'm just like most other people. I'm sure other people may not take it that way, but I know it can suck you in. I've watched enough of the, shows about it and read the literature. It's completely designed to do that. And particularly if you are, dealing with these feelings about the divorce, like that's the worst place to go.
Yeah, you get on social media and at a certain point you're like, wait a minute, how long have I been sitting here looking at these videos of people dancing? I know. And then where I go is I think I could do that. And Julie, I can't. I don't have any moves unless it's maybe like 2 steps and a couple hand moves, but probably not. Heather, believe it or not, I have no rhythm either. So you know what? I'm right there with you.
But let me just tell you, I still send it to my daughter and say, do you think we could do this? Do you think you could teach this to me? And most times she's like, no, you cannot do that. And you have no business doing that. I'm like, okay. All right.
I like your daughter's honesty. I like it.
That hard truth, you got to have thick skin, but it's all right.
But yeah, social media, it could suck out, so much time from your life. And it can also make you have these negative thoughts.
It really can. And because it's not real, it really isn't. And you begin comparing yourself and then you start thinking badly about yourself, or in, a totally unrealistic way about yourself, like, oh, I can be doing this or not. And it's no way to treat yourself, because it's harmful to you, and it's not very kind to allow yourself to get into that spiral, which then brings back all these feelings related to the divorce.
But Heather, I do have to say that sometimes, and I think it's because I host this show, I will see on my feed, it's this one person, it's a lawyer giving advice about divorce. And I say, oh, this could be Heather. This could be Heather doing certain things. Oh, my goodness. But, there you go.
I think it too, Julie. So.
Oh, you know what? We could have a fun show about that. Like, I think it would be fun. Yeah.
I'm going to need a lot of help with dancing, acting, whatever. I don't think I could be doing dancing divorce TikToks. However, I don't know.
Okay, we'll let you pick one. Pick one, and there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. But getting back to the shame and guilt. Okay, so you may feel that way, but also you should feel courageous that you got to this point, that you are able to do the best thing for you.
And that's not selfish, and that's nothing to feel guilty about. And I think that's, at the end of the day, what we're really trying to say about all of this is that not that you're wrong, but your feelings don't have to control you.
But sometimes, so many times, our feelings do control us. They control everything we do. They control how we react to certain people, how we react to whatever it is that they're doing. And so that part is difficult, Heather. It really is.
Well, I know, but just because it's difficult doesn't mean we can't do it. And I think that's why this is a great show, because we all have feelings. But maybe if you can recognize when, hey, I am acting on these feelings rather than thinking through this logically, and I'm not a failure, and I'm not a bad person, and I need to snap out of it and go do something positive rather than sit in these negative feelings.
Okay, so it sounds like you're telling me that we need to focus on the future.
Yes, exactly.
Focus on making your life better.
Yes.
And what are some of the ways that you think that we can do this? We mentioned them a little bit earlier, but how do you think that we can focus on the future, focus on making our life better?
I think I talked about earlier, obviously there's therapy that looks like so many different types of things. And exercise is great, new hobbies. I'm a big proponent of getting out, moving your body, being outside in Florida where it's sunny, because then you feel better when you're in the sun. At least that's my point of view. And begin to do things that eventually are going to affect your physiology, and that's going to help trigger the changes in your psychology.
Anything else you want to add, Heather?
Well, I so appreciate this conversation. I think it's important sometimes just to talk about these difficult feelings and ways that maybe our women listening to the show can improve their lives and not take on so much guilt and shame in regards to the divorce. And if you or someone is going through a divorce, wanting to get a divorce, reach out to us at Florida Women's Law Group, because we are here for you.
And I have to say that, even if you're not someone that's going through a divorce, shows like this, to me, they help even people not going through this, because we could feel shame and guilt about many, many things.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, Heather, it is always a pleasure.
Oh, indeed. I love talking to you, Julie, even about these difficult topics. And we had at least a few things that we could laugh at ourselves about. And hopefully this has helped some women listening.
Oh, I think it has. Well, Heather, I will see you next time.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you for listening to Women Winning Divorce. We hope you found information to help you navigate your divorce. If you like our show, please take the time to subscribe and provide a 5-star review. If you need more information, please visit our website at womenwinningdivorce.com, where you will find previous episodes and other helpful content. Join us next week as we continue our journey of women winning divorce.
The holidays are near, which means decorating season is here. Ready to style your space with the merriest furnishings and home decor of the season? Whether you have a new mattress or love seat on your wish list, Ashley has you covered when it comes to making your home magical for the holidays. With prices this good, you'll leave with some extra jingle in your pockets. Celebrate the magic of home. Visit an Ashley store near you or go to ashley.com to start shopping.